Casas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and the ranking member for holding this markup hearing today and tomorrow. There are a number of bills, that has been noted, that are on the list, but none are more important to the people of California, the people of the San Joaquin Valley, and the people of the counties I represent, Merced, Madera, and Fresno counties, than the legislation that Congressman Valadao and others of us are supporting. Incredible drought, obviously, everyone is clearly aware of. It's made national news now for several years. The committee have mentioned many of the different numbers. Fourth driest year in maybe 1,200 years. 100% of the states of the drought has been impacted, with over 70% of the state in extreme or exceptional drought. Over 38 million people that have been impacted. 346,000 households have picked up over 661,000 food boxes as a result of unemployment in the valley, and how the drought has resulted in loss of over $2.2 billion and thousands of jobs. What all these numbers failed, though, to convey is the incredible human toll and suffering that is taking place and will continue to take place unless we fix a broken water system in California that was designed for 20 million people, in which today we have over 38 million people, and by the year 2030 we're estimated to have 50 million people. That's just the facts, the real facts. Sophia, if you would please run the slides, I'd like to give a different narrative than we've heard thus far. In Karen Hess's book, Out of the Dust, the way I see it, hard times aren't only about money, as been suggested, or drought, or dust. Hard times are about when people lose their spirit, hope, and what happens when dreams dry up. That's a quote. And it's precisely what's happening in the San Joaquin Valley that I represent today. This drought is crushing their spirit, making them feel as if they're insignificant and they're not really a part of the rest of California. H.R. 2898, the Western Water American Food Security Act of 2015, is a first step towards passing a bill that can help provide the tools, all the water tools in the water toolbox, some of what have been mentioned, to deal with the drought in California and ultimately Western states. And we know the necessary solutions. They're to improve operations, which this legislation does, governed by the latest science, which this legislation does, and allow us to move more water when water is available, determined by the Secretary of Interior that there will not be adverse impacts to other elements of the environment. What this legislation does is provide new water by providing additional authority for water storage, both surface storage and as well as underground storage. Increased water recycling and reuse. No one disagrees on those points. Improved water efficiency. No one disagrees on those points. But look at these slides as we're moving, because the conveyance of the solution that minimizes the use of the ecosystem that Governor Brown is proposing next week is a part of the overall fixing of this broken water system. The solution that California needs is not more posturing, but legislation that can be signed into law. Now, this isn't perfect legislation. There are a number of areas in this legislation that I have difficulty with, and it's not going to be signed into law, I think, as it's written today before us, as we will vote on it tomorrow. But it is an effort to move the process forward. And we have had multiple hearings, both here and in the San Joaquin Valley, that this committee and subcommittees have participated in. No, this is not a secret process. This legislation takes off where a bipartisan negotiation took place last fall between the Senate and the House. That's where this legislation takes off, on that bipartisan effort that moved to this point. And for that reason, I support this bill, because it attempts to use all the water tools in the water toolbox. Now, controversial? Give me a break about controversy in water in the West. You know, 1908, Los Angeles bought up the farmers' water rights of Owens Valley. They made a movie about it called Chinatown. That was controversial. Let me talk about 1915 and the Riker Act, the only dam to be built in a national park. John Muir, the founder of the Sierra Club, died of a stroke trying to fight that legislation. Water is always controversial. And legislation, it takes various forms, and you have a process, and some of it's open, and some of it takes place in closed meetings, and ultimately, if it's successful, it works through negotiation. And this is the first step in that process. And we hope the Senate will introduce legislation. And I've looked at both Congressman Huffman's legislation. It has, I think, important elements to that, as well as Senator Feinstein's legislation that she's working on. And finally, my time's expired, but Senator Murkowski is looking at a Western States water bill. And the combination of all of these efforts, with your good work, Mr. Chairman, ultimately, I hope will bring solutions to deal with the West and deal with California's drought.